Hi there. Good morning. Stacey Reed with Integrity Plus Financial Solutions and representing I've Decided. I am excited to have Rebecca on the show today. We're going to talk about the word heritage, and Rebecca has a business called Trinity Genealogy.
Yep.
So I'm excited to have finally met you. We have texted and emailed and talked on the phone and anything but face to face. So I'm excited to get to know you and what you do. So our weekly winning word for I've Decided this week is heritage. And this is such a neat word. I did it last year as well. And you know, it makes me think of heritage, or it makes me think of history. And so some of that I love now that I'm older. But when I was younger, it was probably my worst. I did not like history at all.
I think you are not alone. Most people, I remember being told as a kid, you're always asked, what's your favorite subject? And I'd be like, history. And they're like, why? You know, it's like, what's the point? It's the past.
Right.
What's the point?
Right.
And I went on this big spiel about why it's important. And this person's kind of like, you're a very eccentric child, aren't you? You know,
Yes.
But I've always seen it as a window of, it's kind of like, for example, a lesson learned, don't touch the stove, it's hot. Well, if you remove that lesson, you're going to see this big bright flame on the stove,
Right.
and you're going to want to go touch it. But it's already in the past, so you know, okay, we're not touching that.
Yes, absolutely.
So-
I know. I just found, you know, for whatever reason, it was just really boring to me. And I hate saying that because now I'm like, it's anything but. I mean, my husband will put on different thing like What on Earth, or, you know, different shows, whether it's about Africa or whether it's a document. Anyway, and like now I'm just a sponge.
You have to have the right person teaching it. And I find when you're in school, they teach you basically A to B to, you know, just plain, nothing exciting. And you have to have that teacher that says, okay, this is what they want you to know to make everybody look good.
Right.
This is really what happened.
Yes.
And those are the teachers that really will pull that kid in and be like, oh, history is awesome. You know, I didn't know this.
Yes, exactly.
And you realize there's no really necessarily good side, bad side. Sometimes it's more what was being fought for or the reasons, and, you know, and that's important too.
Absolutely.
Some of the worst villains in history that have gone down as horrible villains, I love
Yeah.
because people judge events in history based on our morals of today, things we consider, you know, not being very moralistic, or how could they have thought to do that? But at times in history, they didn't have the civility per se that we consider ourselves to be now. So you have to put it in perspective of that.
Absolutely. True. Very true. So one area I'm going to just dive into because I'm just excited to hear about it. My brother and I have an aunt that are super big into genealogy, and I watched one night, and we talked about this, a show. What was it called?
Who do you think you are?
That's right. And was intrigued. I was really intrigued with it. They've done it for years and years and compiled so much. In fact, they're even going to write a book and yada, yada. But anyway, but I was really intrigued with what goes into that.
Yes.
And I just played for giggles one night, that night. And I thought, you know, I'm going to look and see like my great grandpa's obituary, you know, and then great, you know, and just kind of went. And then I got to reading just everyone's from that time because it was so intriguing.
Yes.
It was like, it didn't say like Stacey Reed, 46 years old. It said Stacey Reed, and it said like 46 years, 11 months, 63 days, or, you know, 36, whatever it was,
Yep.
you know, but the days, and even like who I was and how I passed. I mean, it was just like, wait, what? And it was just written a lot different then.
Oh, yes. And the words they use, most people,
Yes.
even educated people, be like, I need a dictionary. What does this word
Yeah.
mean? And
So-
it was everyday speech. That, again, at times. This is
Yeah.
what I find history is so relevant because of that. It's how somebody else lived, and you wouldn't think
Yeah.
it'd be that way.
So I want to chat.
You did it, honey.
Did it. Dang it. Go ahead. You start talking. I'm going to pick up my mic.
Uh,
Dang it.
but
First.
I cursed you. Same it happened to me.
You talk.
But one thing I find fascinating too is, like you said, most people don't realize, and I find that very hard when I am discussing what I do with people. They don't understand how much goes into genealogy. And like I was telling you, my hardest thing is getting people to understand what a genealogist is and what they do. And they always associate it with just Ancestry.com.
Yes.
And
We talked briefly about this.
Yeah.
So share, tell us what the difference is there.
so Ancestry.com is, I mean, great. Don't get me wrong. I mean, their marketing team is just geniuses. But it's Ancestry.com. They have their own genealogist. I'm not talking about them, but the Ancestry.com per se is like a subscription service. You subscribe to basically the records. They have wonderful record source that if you're actually trying to look, but it's also deciphering the records that you're looking at. So people think if they get this subscription, their tree is going to be there, and it's not. So then they get disappointed, and then they think, okay, I'm going to type in basic information, and then a bunch of what's called hints pop up at the screen, and they think, oh, look at all these hints, and they put them into their tree, but they're not.
Yeah.
They're not all their own for this
Sure.
person, or they're not anything related to their person that they're trying to look up, but they
Gotcha.
don't necessarily understand that.
Yeah.
Or you get, oh, wow, this person already has this tree done, and they migrate it into their tree, and there's no
It's
source,
not.
there's no.
Oh, okay.
So basically what a genealogist is all those records, basically, or think of the genealogist as the person who went and got those records and then made it accessible. That's the best way kind of to break it down. The genealogist is the person who actually will go hunt for those records,
Okay.
if that
Yes,
makes
it does.
sense, to kind
Absolutely.
of break it down.
Yeah.
So it's it's very hard to explain and then exactly what genealogy is. And it's basically mapping out your family members and their histories and what made them who they were, not just a name.
Now, is it hard to do that for other people?
No.
No. Okay.
It's fascinating.
Is it?
It is
Okay.
fascinating. The hardest thing that actually my husband gets kind of on me about is they're facts. I love facts. To me, that shouldn't be a problem when you're relating information. My husband's like, ooh, I don't know if you should tell them that one because it will upset their family or this or that. And I'm
Okay.
like, but it's a fact. This is what they hired me to
do.
find. Like, yeah. And I always use Jack Nicholson, the
That's
actor,
so
for an example because he was raised his whole life believing that his mother was ended up actually being his grandmother. And his actual mother, he was always raised to believe was his sister. Well, he didn't know till later in life where this all kind of came out. And those are the type of situations
Yes, I never thought about that.
where you kind of dive into it. And I'm always amazed too because people always take face value what they're told.
Yeah.
The stories passed down. And I have hardly ever found them to be accurate. I love hearing them because it might be that one fragment that you didn't think related at all to what you just told me and asked me to look for. But that one oddity that just happened to be thrown in the story actually was the lead I needed
I'll be darned.
to get something done.
Kind of like solving a mystery in a way,
It is.
isn't it?
It is.
That's so intriguing.
It is.
So one thing that we chatted about before we got on camera, and I want to hit this point because I never really thought about this. We kind of chatted about technology
Yes.
and the beauty of it and the curse of it, I guess I'll say, or I think that's what we even called it. But one of the things we talked about is how like our kids, actually it'd be like my grandkids, those generations it's just a whole new world, and social media, yada, yada. And we got to talking, and, I had never thought about some.
People don't.
Yeah. So we were talking, and I'm just going to let you talk about how that era makes it really difficult, probably, for you, and we lose a lot of
I think
good
about it
stuff.
for future genealogies, genealogists looking for records.
Yeah.
Because everybody, so what we were discussing was the fact that technology is wonderful.
Right.
We all depend on it. It's so fast, it's so easy, everything's at our fingertips for the most part.
Right.
We're connected to, everybody all over the world. But what we're losing out on is what I call the personal aspect of everything. So, like, just greeting cards, the physical form of a greeting card that say, between me and my husband, for example, is not going to be left for my children or their grandchildren to see, because now most people send
Text.
an internet, message that, ooh, you open it up and it's gone.
Yeah,
You delete
yeah.
it, it's gone. It's not, and then people argue, well, you could save that and it'll be, in the clouds forever. Well, that's
Until the cloud is something different.
People don't think, and you don't like to talk like that, but you never know. We rely so much on the internet, and yes, you never want to think something,
Would happen with that. But
what big would happen, but doesn't mean it won't. But still, it's that personal, and like, love letters, or correspondence between people in World War II, I think about, there's no such thing really anymore of letters being written, and there's so much emotion and just the identity of the person and how they wrote, their own handwriting,
Absolutely.
their own spelling. It's like, okay,
Yes,
my grandmother
true.
could not spell.
Yep,
and
yep,
it's a joke
absolutely.
because then maybe you can't spell.
Right,
It's
right.
like, okay, I can blame her.
Now I know where to get it. I got it from.
And just everything like that. Directories, I was talking to you about,
Yes.
telephone directories. They're such a great source, because if you look in records of people, it'll say like your husband's name, and then you'll be in parentheses, the wife, and then somebody's last name, and then it'll say what they did, Teamster, maybe, this company they worked for, and then their address. And then, but I love directories too, because say you can't figure out who they're related to. Well, it's a directory, so you'll have the other, say, Reeds,
Yes.
and the community, then you have, okay, they have to somehow,
be connected.
most probably be connected. But
So true.
So-
Never thought about that.
and there's no real directories, and somebody's like, well, you
Yeah.
can look them up, just say their name. Well, that's the problem. What if you don't know their name? You might know their last name, or if it's a completely different name, but like, say, the mom lived by or with the
Yeah.
kid. So all these factors you don't necessarily
Sure.
think of.
Yeah, absolutely. So when did you get started in genealogy?
When you're a kid and everybody asks you, what do you want to do when you grow up?
Right.
And they always say, you have to choose. You have to get serious. You have to. Well, I always was torn between science and history. I love
Okay.
both.
Okay.
And I think what I really like is the research.
Yeah.
I like the mystery, the discoveries, finding things out. So I actually chose science first, thinking it'll take you further. And genealogy, I always was interested in the research, looking people up, and I kind of always had done it. And then never thought of it as a career per se, just a hobby. Oh, this is fun, kind of like, crosswords for somebody. You don't think of it.
Sure,
And
absolutely.
I kind of went down the science route, and then people kind of asked me questions over the years, to help them with their genealogy or what they think I should do. So it kind of started taking me down this road. And finally somebody said, you could do something with this. I'm like, oh, this is just for fun. And it made me start thinking of it
outside the
broader.
box, yeah.
But I love it because you always are looking for your two loves or passions to kind of find a way. And genealogy actually does that, because science and history are combined in genealogy, because with the DNA anymore, it is science. And I use examples all the time. And actually the DNA with royal families,
Yeah.
they're finding, using DNA, one of the, was it King Richard was found. They're making in London, I believe London, somewhere.
Yeah.
They're making another parking lot, and they came upon remains, and they had to run DNA with one of the royals,
Wow.
and just it's all connected. So, and people don't, I don't think, connect the two.
Right.
but it's just fascinating,
Absolutely.
you know, and it's kind of morbid, but it's science and
So
fascinating.
how long has genealogy been a thing? Like I feel like, I feel like it's more so now or has been, there's been a little block of time, but was it a thing like when we were,
Genealogy has
20
been
something?
around in one form or another. I'm going to say, maybe not called genealogy,
Sure.
but almost since the beginning, because high society, let's call them families, kind of recorded their families and loved to try and connect it to ancient gods, even,
Okay.
trying to connect. Love to say that they were somehow connected to Alexander the Great, somebody great,
Somebody,
so there
that's,
was always,
yeah, trying to get to that person.
yes. And then it kind of became, so somehow if you're nobility of some sort or there's better records, let's just call it. So there
Right.
was always around in some
That's
form
true.
like that.
Yeah, that's a good point.
And then also, again, there's histories written about the people, so you might not have called it genealogy, but they were definitely
Absolutely.
talking about the generations and who their kids were. Not necessarily women. Women were just like labeled sometimes daughter, girl,
Yeah.
child, but
Yeah,
no name.
right.
And then they would say like, who they married of importance, name,
Mm-hmm.
but still, third daughter of,
Yeah,
but not a name.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
So it is very, very interesting.
I bet.
And
I
then
bet.
it just got really, I feel, picked up more. Well, I think it's always been there. I don't think people necessarily knew it was or what it was, but it's always
Yeah.
really been there.
Yeah. Well, technology has probably enhanced that a lot. It's probably made it a little bit more well known because now you can really find things that you don't have to maybe physically go do.
Actually, that's the misconception
Oh.
too. So again, as a genealogist, what makes it hard, they think everything's online.
Right.
So why do I need you? I can just sign up for Ancestry.com. It's all there. It's not. Most records are not online. Most records you have to go physically
Physically
to
go
a
to
place
the-
and hunt down.
Well, I will say that my brother has done that with my aunt. They do these little road trips where they've had to, so they're to the point of being stuck, so to speak. And it's like till the next piece comes, we can't go any further,
Yes.
kind of thing. So
And it's fascinating because again, you get to kind of see where your ancestor might have lived. This person, kind of.
Yeah.
Granted, the expression, as much as things change, they stay the same.
Right.
So you kind of think, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, this is the road, they traveled on, or
that is so
it's
cool.
very fascinating.
Yeah. So I think I could talk to you for another 20 minutes, but I want to share with the folks out there, if you've listened and you're intrigued with genealogy and they'd like to find you, do you take on clients that are looking for that help?
Yes.
Awesome.
Yes.
Can you share how they would get a hold of you?
TrinityGenealogy.com.
Okay.
We're on
TrinityGenealogy.com.
Facebook, LinkedIn,
Okay.
Instagram.
Yeah.
So basically all the social media.
Okay. Awesome.
And like I said, the hardest thing is just getting people to understand what we do.
Yes.
And you say
I bet.
genealogy and they say, oh, but you can see that.
Like, oh, I'm not sure.
And then you
Okay.
say ancestry, thinking that might help.
Yes.
And then they go, oh, ancestry.com. It's like, okay.
Yeah, exactly. Sure.
So
sure.
that makes it very interesting.
Well, we are running low on time. And so I just want to encourage you to reach out to Rebecca. And if you are interested in genealogy and finding some of the, what do I want to say, the stepping stones of your
Basically,
family.
it's your family, discovering your family, your histories.
Yeah.
Mapping it out. I mean, you'll be
Yeah.
amazed at what you'll discover, who you're related to.
awesome.
I found medical conditions that literally every generation, and I'm like, okay, we can trace this back this far.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So reach out to Rebecca. Visit her at TrinityGenealogy.com.
Genealogy.com.
And thanks for joining us today. Sorry for my little mishap with my mic. I knew I'd do that one day. Tim probably knew I'd do that one day. But anyway, thanks for joining us. We hope you will visit I'veDecided.org for any more details on that as well. Thanks.